Tuning you in now to the LBX show with your hosts, Christine Buer and Brandon Wiley. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
Well, hey, gang. It's
All
October
right.
20th. It's becoming spook season. Well, it's been spook season all month, hasn't it, actually?
I'm trying to get there. I
You're not
don't know.
feeling it, hey?
Well, today's finally the first day where it actually feels like fall here. So there's
Oh.
actually clouds and it's cool and nice and we may get some rain. So anyway, it's nice.
Well, okay, I will say is one nice thing about living up here in Canada. The leaves are falling. It feels fall. Everything is orange and beautiful in color here, and it's cold. There was frost on the grass this morning, just FYI. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we'll get frost on the grass in January. So there we go.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got actually a cool show today. So we've got a lot of different things going on. All right. So we are going to start obviously with some events. We'll talk about a few events coming up, but then we actually have a special guest here. His name's Leonard Pickel, and he calls himself the hauntpreneur. So really excited. He's at the airport. So we're going to put him right at the beginning of the show so that he can head out and then hop on a plane. But it's awesome. We're excited to hear a little bit about what he does about helping people build haunts in their facilities and in their homes and in their theme parks. And we'll get to know a little bit more about him and some of what he does there. And then we're going to hear about some opens and closings from Kevin Williams. We'll get into the arcades with Adam Pratt of Arcade Heroes. And then we're going to do some pro tips with Chuck DeMonte. And then, of course, we're going to hear from Beth Stanley and hear all about scaling up. And then we're going to wrap up. So very excited.
Yeah, we might have some teasers about some new sound off episodes coming up that we're going to take a peek at the end.
All
of the
right.
show, so.
All right. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Well, first and foremost, before we get going, let's hear about some news. All right. What do we need to know?
The intro. All right. Okay. So first and foremost, next week on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we have the LBX Academy rolling with birthday workshop. This is going to be in Chandler, Arizona. Brandon and gang are going to be there. I will not, unfortunately, guys. I'm going to miss everyone. But it sounds like the agenda is looking so awesome. I'm so excited. Jeremy William is going to be delivering it. And if you don't know who Jeremy is, he used to be, oh my gosh, vice president of, what was it at Urban Air? Sorry.
Operations or something like that. Or franchise operations. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Right. And he was also from Jake's Unlimited when they won the Brass Ring Award for FEC of the Year. So the man has got birthday parties dialed in, and he's going to be great at presenting. We also have Kyle Strummy, he's from Kick-Ass.
High Kick Sales.
Oh
Kick-Ass is a movie. So
High Kick Sales, and he's going to be joining to talk about corporate sales and how to drive business in that area. So super exciting, and it'll be great to have both those gentlemen presenting next week.
Yeah, awesome. And then, of course, we've got IAPA Expo coming up, and we're excited to welcome people to our booth 145. We'll have some announcements to make while we're there, and there'll be some information to learn all about some of those things as well. So definitely swing by our booth, 145. You can't miss it if you go to the bathroom. We'll be right there next to the bathroom. So
yes, we might be able to fill you up with something after you're done at the bathroom. You just never know.
Maybe we can't say anything about that.
I know. Okay, so something I just wanted to quickly share before we roll into the rest of the stuff today is I saw Bingman's out of Ontario. This is Mark Bingman's group. They were doing this really cool advent calendar for Christmas, and I thought it was so brilliant. I wanted to share it with you before Christmas season rolls in. I've got a little picture of what this looks like on their website and how they're selling it, but it's kind of like the little advent calendar box, and you know how they work. You open up one for every day of December before Christmas comes, and every window or door has a little present inside. But what they did, and I thought this was so brilliant, is they've scattered some chocolates and some goodies inside of this calendar, but they also did a bunch of different experiences that you can get at Bingman as well. So one day has like a miniature golf admission in it. Another day has a splash to their water park that's coming up and will be open in the summer. Another thing to laser tag. And I thought it was such a brilliant way for them to market their facility and drive some extra revenue during this period of time, rather than just selling gift certificates like we see normal FECs do. So good job for them on thinking outside of the box. I don't know what the cost to produce something like this was. Like if they're selling it for $100, was it $50 to produce, $20 to produce? What's kind of are the money making? What does the money making end look like? Maybe we should get in touch with Mark to kind of find out how his campaign went after Christmas. But really thought it was a great idea and didn't want to miss sharing it with everyone.
Yeah, that's awesome. And maybe we can, at the end, provide a link to where we can learn more about that. That'd be great.
Yeah, I was thinking we should be doing some show notes after each show, because I think there'll be some other things that our guests will talk about that we might want to share as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
let's say
perfect.
it'll be
Well,
in the show notes.
yeah, at the least read the description afterwards, and you can grab the links. We'll definitely drop them in there if we aren't able to grab them in time to throw them in the show while we're doing this as we're rolling here. So, all right, that's news you should know. And thanks for listening to that little segment. All right. So I'm excited for Leonard Pickel. He reached out to me earlier this week and said, "Hey, I think it's a great time to talk about this." And I was like, "Hey, this makes perfect sense. Let's bring you on." And as we were talking a little bit before we started this recording, found out that his first haunt, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think his first haunt was in 1976. Is that the first haunt that he created? Which is so amazing and awesome.
I know. I was so surprised. I'm like, I was 3. Oh my God, I'm giving my age away. Okay, which I shouldn't be. Oops. Okay, maybe we'll have to scratch this. But yeah, pretty cool. He's been doing it for a very long time, so he's very seasoned in this. So it'll be
Yeah.
exciting to have him on and ask him some questions about.
All right. Well, let's get into it.
Ooh.
Seasoned is just another word for old, I think, actually. So
I don't know. Experienced is what my preference is, Leonard.
I have been doing this for a long time. Scaring people, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. So I volunteer.
I would say I like my steak seasoned, and but not. I don't like my steak old. Maybe aged, but not old. Yeah. So all right. So
Okay.
all right.
So, I mean, I think I would love to kick off things by kind of finding out how you got into this, and how you came to be this entrepreneur.
I went to college to become a famous architect, and when Halloween rolled around, the guys went over to the girls' dorms and trick-or-treated for an hour, and then the girls came over to the guys' dorms and trick-or-treated for an hour. And of course, we were in the lowly freshman dorm, so it took a long time for anybody to show up at an air-conditioned dorm. But pretty soon we heard the girls knocking on the doors, trick-or-treat down the hallway. Of course, we had our door wide open. I had gone as Dracula with a stake in my heart, and my roommate had gone as Groucho Marx. And so, we came running back over to our room to try to decorate it and scare the girls. And so I laid out on a coffee table. Dracula laid out on a coffee table, and Groucho Marx had a bowl of candy that we had just collected from the girls on the other side of me. And the girls were going to have to reach over me to get some candy, and I was going to grab them. And somehow that was going to get us dates. I don't really remember what our thought process was on that, but somehow that was going to get us dates. So, but what happened is, we heard the girls come in, and we knew how many doors there were, so we knew exactly when they were going to be at our door. And and what I remember is seeing these 3 heads kind of peek in around the door and look inside. The 4th girl walked straight in, saw Groucho Marx, saw the Dracula on the table, screamed. The other girls screamed, and they all ran down the hallway. We never saw them again. And my roommate and I looked at each other and we said, "Wow, if they're that easy to scare, we got to do a haunted house." I had really only been to 2 haunted houses in the Dallas market where I was living at the time, and so I really was kind of green on what to do. But I chaired an event there or I did the haunted house there for at college the 4 years that I was there, and then graduated with an architectural degree and volunteered with the March of Dimes, who was the big haunted house in the Dallas market at the time, thinking that it might be fun to do for profit, do scaring people for money for in the future. So I chaired their event for 4 or 5 years, and then I opened my own haunted house with really literally credit cards and pocket change. And, we opened up, we ran. And when all was said and done, I was like $20,000 in debt, which I thought was a huge failure because a haunted house is a get rich quick scheme, right? No, it's a business just like any other, which is a 3 to 5 year payout. And, not knowing that, I thought it was a huge failure. And my dad kept coming to me and saying, there were so many people coming to me wanting me to design haunted houses for them that I really kind of turned that into a business. We created Hauntpreneurs, and I've been designing haunted houses for people ever since. I probably would be richer if I had kept just doing haunted houses for myself, but I was notorious for going in and rearranging the walls on Friday afternoon on Halloween because it wasn't perfect yet. I was constantly trying to tweak it, to the dismay of the actors that go running in, trying to run to their spots and run square into a wall that wasn't there yesterday. But I was constantly tweaking. So what this gave me an opportunity to do is do several haunted houses, for different clients throughout the year, and be able to, to keep improving and keep getting better and moving on to the next haunt.
In its final boarding stages at gate number 2.
I hope that's not your flight.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so, it looks like we've been looking at some of these pictures just while you've been talking. And is there a typical theme that you like to go with? I mean, I've seen some pirates and catacombs and old houses. What do you find seems to be the most, the most interesting? I wouldn't say interesting. One that people are most attracted to.
I'm a huge believer in multi-element. So if somebody comes to me and say, I've got an 8,000 square foot building that we want to put a haunted house in, I'm going to say, no, let's put 4 2,000 square foot buildings in there, because that allows you to have, a Frankenstein in one haunt and a clown in another haunt and an alien monster in another haunt, and not try to put all those in the same attraction because they don't make sense. So, but when we do that, I always try to have at least one, classic Victorian mansion, ghost haunted house, because I feel like, it seems like the ones that at least have that, when people drive up, say, yep, that's a haunted house just by looking at the outside of it. Those are the events that end up doing the best. So definitely you want to have a haunted house that fits that Psycho or maybe even Addams Family look to it, just so the people driving by know, yep, that's a haunted house.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
May I have your attention,
So,
please?
I feel like
Security, please do not leave baggage unattended.
Hey, that's what happens. It's real
we're
life.
going
It's all
on a
good.
trip. Yeah, we're
Sure.
taking everyone on an adventure. So you kind of alluded to the fact that haunted houses can be multiple sizes. You could even have multiple themes in one kind of haunted area for people to enjoy, which I think is brilliant if you want them to come back and do different things.
Sure.
But curious about, if I wanted to build a house in my space, what kind of cost am I looking at? Like, how much money do I need to spend on the bare minimum to create an attraction that's worth, people coming and spending their money on?
And I'll just add one secondary question to that is, how much space do I actually need to build like some basic level haunted house?
It depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, if you're building this in your garage to scare the neighborhood kids, then that 20 by 20 space is probably plenty. Although it tends to grow out into the driveway and into the front yard, and pretty soon you have the whole block taken over. But you don't really have to have something that's massive. I've seen some very cool haunted houses that were just in a 2-car garage. But if you're going to do something that's for the public, and you're trying to do thousands of people through this thing and be profitable, that needs to be I like to go multi-element. So I would rather do 4 2,000 square foot haunted houses than one 8,000 square foot haunted house. And they need to be different themes, but they also kind of need to be different styles, not just do different storylines, but actually do different style haunted houses. And there's several to choose from, but you don't want them to just feel like they're going through another haunted house. And you definitely want to put them side by side and not nose to tail. You don't want to go through one haunted house and then have a little queue line and go through the next haunted house without giving them the choice, like an amusement park, of being able to pick which ride they want to do next.
Right. All right.
Yeah,
And then,
that's interesting.
But for pricing, it's going to cost you. I've heard people that can say they can build it for $10 a square foot. I don't see that. You're at least at 25, maybe even 35 with lumber like it is. COVID did not do us any favors with lumber, but so somewhere in the $35, $40 a square foot range. And then, and that's my kind of if I've designed it for you, because the wall panel system that we use is very changeable, so it can be temporary. And it's actually I've really honed that topic down to make sure that I've got the cheapest, easiest to build, most economical, really most green, because you can use a lot of the scrap that you would normally have that you throw away. You can actually use that inside the panel to create the pathway, and and that saves you a lot of money and time. You're in my kind of haunted house that I use. You use the plywood to hold the 2x4s together rather than building a frame and then putting plywood on it. the 2x4s aren't really even connected to each other, so you don't have to screw through that 2x4. You're just screwing through the plywood.
And so is there like kind of if you do a haunted house 1 year and you're spending that $25 to $35 a square foot, can you reuse some of those materials though for the next year to bring your cost down? Okay.
Yeah, it's totally reusable. So in fact, it's like a large house of cards. You just rearrange it, shuffle them up, and rearrange it, and come up with something brand new. Especially in a situation where you're able to, that you have to take it down and put it back up every year because you're using the space for something else the rest of the year. Our wall system, it really allows that to do that. And like I said, I'm notorious for going through and taking a haunted house and rearranging stuff in an afternoon just because it's not perfect yet.
Yeah, and I was just recently at Not Scary Farm earlier this week for an IAPA event, and I had a chance to go through one of their new haunts. It was called Widows, and I have a specific question about that. We'll come back to in a second. Okay. But one of the things that they mentioned is that they actually rotate, and so about 1 out of every 1 out of 8 they do like a new they do a new haunt, but then they keep the same ones coming back. So like about a quarter of them or whatever, they're constantly cycling, but every year if there's one that you liked, you can come back and do it the next year, but then there'll also be some new ones and they're retiring old ones. So they are constantly cycling.
And that's where multi-element helps you, because you don't have to redo the whole haunted house. You can just take one of those and retheme them. And I would bet, I don't know this for a fact, but I would bet that they actually go in and make changes to the insides of the other ones, but they don't do a complete redesign and rebuild, except on maybe 1 or 2 of them per year. And that's good. Yeah. I mean, and that gives you something new for this year to give you something to promote, and it makes it a lot more palatable for people to come back. It gives them a reason to come back and see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. So this question is probably tied to budget, and this is I'm going to use Widows as refer to Widows. I would imagine there's probably 3 ways to go about doing a haunted house or mixing things together. There's just the walkthrough maze as it is. There's the adding of the animatronics, which obviously increases some costs. And then you have the live actors that come in and actually are providing additional scare elements. And so I'd love to get your thoughts around, how essential are animatronics, how essential is movement, and then especially on the live actor side to really providing a good haunt experience, or can that be done at a slightly lower budget and just provide a really good spooky maze with some interesting lighting and stuff?
Scaring people is very much like telling them a joke. It's all in the setup and the timing of the punchline, which is a startle scare. So, and I've never seen an animatronic that could tell a decent joke. So in my opinion, you're better off with live actors than you are with animatronics. Now, and the reason that the larger haunts use a lot of animatronics is because, that animatronic is going to be there all the time. It's going to be on time every night. It may not work, but it's going to be there in its position. It doesn't need a break. So the larger haunts are going to use a lot of animatronics and a lot of static props because they just can't afford to fill every corner with a live actor. But a live actor is more effective. He knows where the chickens are. He knows where the scared people are in the group. He knows to hit the front of the group this time, the back of the group the next time. He can do something different every time somebody goes by it. A haunted house, I highly recommend, if you're going to see haunted houses, go through them twice if you can, because it can be a completely different experience if the actors are doing something different or they're on at one point and not on another point. I always try to go through a haunt at least a couple of times because it's the only way you can get the real experience, because again, it's very interactive. It depends on what the rest of the people in the group are doing, as well as the actors, and it changes almost every time you go through.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So how do these actors get so good at doing their job? Like, is there a haunt school where they go and they learn different techniques on things? How do they know what's appropriate? Like, can they touch somebody? Can't they touch somebody? What does that look like?
You're looking for the people that have been scaring their brothers and sisters and parents for their whole life. But it's pretty easy to learn. And it's interesting because it's a very symbiotic relationship. When you jump out and really scare somebody, they have that adrenaline rush and their knees buckle, but the actor gets an adrenaline rush too. So it's a very symbiotic relationship in that. And if you really scare somebody, you get that adrenaline rush just as much as the person that you scared does. And I mean, and there are some famous haunt actor trainers that you can hire to come in and help you train your people that are working in your haunt. And one of the biggest problems with any business today is getting staffing. which is another reason that people go with animatronics sometimes, because they just can't afford to hire or they can't find the people. Most haunted houses are understaffed. They'd like to have a few more people if they could. So if you want a job, go find a haunted house. I'm sure they'll give you one.
Yeah, that's super cool. I actually remember being at IAP a couple of years ago and talking to somebody else that had some Halloween stuff, and they had mentioned that they had a necklace system where if you wore green through the haunted house, that means please don't scare me, I'm already scared enough. Orange was like kind of scare me, and like red was go full on out. I want to be, horrified by the time I'm leaving this maze, make me cry. And I thought that was a really neat system to know where your guests were at and what kind of level of scare you wanted.
The problem with that system is the one time I tried it, some little 12-year-old came walking out of the haunted house with a necklace on, not to scare him, and said, "Oh, that wasn't scary at all," and I lost half of my line. So you have to worry about. I mean, in my opinion, you don't. And that was the last time I ever had a child's prize. My haunted house is designed to scare a 21-year-old white male. He's the absolute hardest person to scare because he's going through repeating to himself, nothing's going to scare me, nothing's going to scare me. He's with a date or with his buddies, and he cannot afford being seen screaming like a girl. So he's the hardest person to scare. If I can make him jump a few times, then I've done my job.
I love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Leonard, thank you so much. This has been absolutely incredible having you on. Thanks for reaching out to us. And so we were able to bring you on. And I look forward to doing this again next year. If you're up for it, I'd love to have you here. And
I apologize for my for the announcements. I'm at an airport on my way to Kuwait to build the haunted house. We did one from these guys last year. They don't even open until November. They don't know what Halloween is, but they do haunted houses there, and we're really setting their world apart because they have never seen anything like what we're bringing.
Wow!
Very cool.
Well, that's so awesome. Well, safe travels, and enjoy the time out there in Kuwait, and scaring people who I guess new at this. So anyway, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Leonard.
All right, thank you guys. Take care. Have a great season.
Too.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Big hello to all of our listeners as well as watchers, open and shut. We're going to go through the openings in the location-based entertainment and immersive entertainment, social entertainment sectors. We're also going to look at any of the closures and redevelopments that are going on in the sector. Again, another packed edition, a lot going on. The train keeps on chugging here in the sector. Good to see a lot of new blood, but also a lot of rebrandings. But let's start off with the openings. And one of the topics that we're going to actually be covering in the next sound off is immersion. And we've just seen in the Netherlands the announcement of a brand new immersive theme park, more of a location-based theme entertainment conglomerate or center. This facility is quite a large one, and it's all indoors, and they're really going for a very high level of themality with it. Anyway, the doors will be opening at the end of 2024, and be prepared for a lot of unique themality, a lot of unique attractions, and a lot of immersion. And I will go into what really our industry defines as immersion in the next sound off. Moving on, and we're got the announcements popping up now on the social media. A lot of the active entertainment facilities are reimagining themselves. They're embracing the sudden interest in active entertainment. And active entertainment isn't just having a climbing wall and trampolines. It is now having the full entertainment mix. And so our friends at Air City have rolled out, or in the process of throwing their doors open in New York, to their facility. It has quite a large amusement midway component, but it also has the climbing walls, the suspended climbing frames, and you know, all of the fun stuff to offer a highly active and competitive environment. You know, no active entertainment facility is complete unless it has a ninja wall. And one of the things that we're noticing about these kinds of facilities are that they're aiming for quite a broad church of age groups, you know, a high level entertainment and competitive environment, but also with the amusement and the F&B. Talking of the active entertainment side, and our friends at Urban Air just threw their doors open to their brand new facility. This Indiana site is an interesting one, that it's actually going into a previous Bath and Beyond. So the Bath and Beyond store, if you're not American or not familiar with the brand, is a kind of everything for the bathroom and wet room component that sadly went to the wall in 2023. Click the fingers, new lease signed, and then suddenly the doors are thrown open to an Urban Air. And if you go on to the Friends of the Stinger Report Facebook group, you'll see a video fly through of that facility. I'll let the video do the talking about how that facility is laid out, but it is the latest approach by Urban Air to active entertainment. Seeing a trend beginning to gain momentum. We talked previously about what we had seen with our friends at Swingers and the addition of the kind of amusement addition to their mini golf environment. Well, our friends in Australia, Fun Labs, have developed a similar approach for their mini golf Holy Moly facility, where they've repurposed the basement level of their facility there, and they've now added Holy Moly Funhouse. And in there are a number of attractions, amusements, specially developed for their facility that offers a kind of competitive socializing, a fun house experience. And you know, going back to what we were talking about previously in the last sound off, where it was obvious that we were going to be seeing single entertainment social entertainment facilities with a single entertainment. So be it based around mini golf, be it based around shuffleboard, based around escape rooms or whatever, but only having one key attraction for their facility. Now those venues have done the maths, and they now can see that they need to have something else to increase the dwell time and to offer diversity to the audience that they're attracting to their facilities. And I can tell you that this isn't the only competitive socializing venue, along with Swingers, that is thinking about adding a new entertainment addition to their facility. But watch this space. And then the other trend that seems to be defining itself in the new openings is the mall as a target for competitive socializing. So Crossplex in Birmingham, Alabama, just announced that they're going to go for quite a ambitious rollout of updates, and a number of their empty units are going to be turned over to well-known competitive socializing brands or chains. They've also got a couple of unique ones going in there. So they're going to have the ubiquitous pickleball courts. They're going to have food courts. They're going for everything really, but they're also including esports from a esports provider, and they're also doing bowling from a bowling chain provider. But again, the mall may be in serious trouble. A number of malls across America are feeling the pain of closed units, and really a number of these mall operators have bit the bullet, refigured themselves, and looked at themselves having an entertainment anchor. This is a phrase you're going to be hearing a lot about. What I call retail attainment, the placing of entertainment spaces in retail zones, be they factory malls or strip malls or shopping malls, whatever the retail attainment environment is, they are now pivoting away from what previously was the entertainment anchor. Jump back a couple of years, 10 years at least, and when you said entertainment anchor to an owner or manager of a mall, they would be thinking about a cinema, they would be thinking about the F&B, the restaurant and the bar component. They wouldn't really be thinking about competitive socializing entertainment space unless they had done a deal with a Dave & Buster's, unless they had done a deal with one of the other large chain entertainment facilities that was trying to take over one of their defunct stores. And now we're seeing this as a natural, and there's been a lot of talk about this. So here we go. Dooley's Town Center in Virginia again. They already have some what we would call entertainment anchors. They have Sky Zone, trampoline, active entertainment, and they also have 810 billiards and bowling, 810. The issues here are that they are now also adding new entertainment, and they've just announced that they will be dropping in an always in motion active entertainment with a social entertainment mix. And they say, watch this space, there will be other active entertainments going in. So really they're repurposing the space. Jump over to our friends in the UK, and Norwich has also got quite a well-known shopping mall there, the Castle Quarter. It's more a shopping mall with a large shopping district surrounding it, and they have added, expanded, or repurposed the departing department stores from their locality and replace them now with competitive socializing entertainment. And this space has got a boom battle bar, and it's got a putt social, and it's got an escape hunt. Funny enough, all under the same ownership brands, and they're also now looking at adding 2 more competitive socializing entertainment aspects to their makeup. The O2 Centre, very famous building, was created, it's a giant tent really, created for the Millennium celebrations, and then was repurposed as a live performance venue, as well as having a surrounding retail hub. That retail hub component has been slowly adding social entertainment as an anchor to their venue. They have a very unique audience there, and so they have to be mindful of what they can do with the space. They had the first Toca Social open in their midst and went through a baptism of fire there. They also have a Hollywood Bowl, which is in a modern format rather than the traditional format for Hollywood Bowl. And now, funny enough, the individuals that were behind some of the brands we were talking about, Boom Battle Bar and such like that, have decided that they will license Activate. That is the adult-themed, very physical, run-around skill and mental acuity experience with a little bit of social entertainment, social engineering added to it, underlining my point about active entertainment, but also underlining my point about social entertainment. And that is going to be parachuted into the O2, 10,000 square foot facility. So interesting to watch that space to see how they grow. And then Activate themselves, they run about 40 facilities in North America and Canada. and they just announced their latest opening in Michigan. They are really finding their stride. You could look at this as kind of the adult urban air approach or the adult gravity approach, but it's interesting to see where all of this is going. And this particular experience, very social, very competitive, very sweaty. I've had the pleasure to do it. We talked about the opening in Las Vegas. Will be interesting to see how the Michigan facility does. IP is king still. And our friends at DreamWorks Animation have teamed up with Universal Live Entertainment in the Middle East, with the UAE sector, and they've agreed to roll out a number of their already established interactive entertainment sites under the Dream Play brand. One facility has already been opened, if my memory serves me right, in Dubai. This is more of a location-based entertainment space aimed at a younger audience, based heavily on the brand, with some digital interactive, as well as some characters in costumes, as well as some soft play. But again, IP is king, and this is the latest addition to the IP-heavy location-based facilities that we're seeing in the Middle Eastern market, and inevitably we'll be seeing populating the Western market as well. Talking about the UAE and IP, we can't miss out Mattel's partnership with Seven, the Saudi Entertainment Ventures network. Has been active, very active since their formation. They've established a number of high-level partnerships with intellectual property and brand owners, and have started quite a competitive process of rolling out facilities based upon those brands. We've seen a couple of attempts at this, and adding to the list, Mattel's Hot Wheels brand has been turned into a e-karting experience. Hot Wheels Karting, original name, but it is really borrowing heavily from the multi-level karting indoor facilities. This one, from the looks of it, doesn't have an amusement and F&B component, but it's locale, where the first venue where this is being deployed looks to be very full of food and beverage components around surrounding the space, and so this will feed off of that. It will also have an after dark component to it, so it's aiming for a very young audience as well as for a slightly older audience, and it will be interesting to see again if this kind of branding and this kind of approach will parachute into the Western market. Virtual reality and Evo, they have been unsung heroes of the free roaming business. They have quite a European and US presence. They have about 50 facilities worldwide, but I prefer to say they have their free roaming entertainment systems in 50 localities, either as standalone attractions as part of a bigger entertainment or as their own dedicated entertainment site. It's very important that this company is behind its own content. It has positioned itself very well to roll out, but it hasn't really been shouting its successes from the hilltops until now. And what's happened, certain investments have gone in, certain repositioning, certain rebranding, as well as market interest. And the market feels at the moment that the location-based entertainment VR market, some people like to call it location-based VR, but I have to add that E because entertainment is an important part of this sector. They are projecting that by the end of 2024, it's going to be about a $1 billion market. And the projections are, the wet finger in the air is by 2029, this could be an $8 billion market. Now, how are you going to accelerate the business over those few years to become $8 billion worth market is going to be interesting. here we are, a company that most people wouldn't go to first when questioned who are the leaders in free roaming VR facilities. It has 50 sites. Our friends at Sandbox VR has just opened their 52nd site. Our friends at Zero Latency have over 100 sites. So you can now kind of see stealthily the VR free roaming market is really gaining momentum. And there are some other company names, Playground VR and our friends at Springboard VR are all companies that are really gaining momentum, looking at deploying their standalone machine into the market, or looking at creating unique facilities based on this market. And where consumer VR is suffering birthing pains, commercial entertainment VR, or LBVR, seems to be gaining a momentum that is going to be hard to stop in the coming years. And again, we've gone from the very big to the very small. Nothing wrong with being small if you're profitable. Putter Around is a brand that has been trying to establish itself. It is a much more colloquial, much more boutique, much more hands-on experience. No digital signage, no digital scoring, much more family-based and easy to get into mini golf in a retail unit. And now they have opened their 9-hole golf facility. Their holes are boards, as it were, but is being supported by a very strong F&B and a very social entertainment component. And Michigan will be seeing this one throw its doors in the next couple of weeks. We wish them a lot of luck with their site, and we hope that it is the beginning of bigger and better things for this group. Always, when I seem to be covering this sector, I'm talking about our friends at Gender. The company recently had earnings report for financing, and they were celebrating that they've got over 2,000 facilities open, not just the Geico Get Into the Gaming Oasis facilities, which are built on the foundation that was laid down by the Sega sites that they acquired, but they also have karaoke operation under brand, and they also have their crane and Gashipo operation. So it really is a powerhouse, and it looks like next year will mark a very important milestone for this operation in achieving their market domination aspirations. We wish them well with that. And then again, in Hokkaido, a brand new amusement style facility has thrown its doors open. This is the second store of this particular brand run by this particular corporation. It is a mixture, I would say, of what we were seeing developed by Gender, meeting what we would normally see from the Taito Station style approach to Japanese amusement facilities. It's a kludge of those two offerings, as well as having a very young mini play space. It also has a very dedicated amusement, video games, and not redemption, but crane and Gashipo component, and again, another entrant into the market that's looking to establish themselves with a vengeance. And I can't keep on saying this enough, what we're seeing happening in the reascending or resurging Japanese market after going through a baptism of fire from COVID and all of the problems that they've suffered, to now seeing a major spurt in investment in new facilities that will be as catching as COVID was for the international industry. And we look forward to reporting a little bit more about that come February, when the Japanese trade shows are taking place. Shutting. I haven't got many to talk. I haven't got really any to talk about other than one particular facility, which I've already mentioned. And I was a little bit, I chastised myself for my flippancy about the Gilligan's closure in New York. The issue for me was that I had been to the facility and it was run down, and I hadn't really appreciated it as much as the locals have, but I should have been a bit more mindful of its history. It was over 100 years in operation. It was a family-owned combine operation, and the family had brought a lot to the Ocean City area with this particular entertainment space. It was an important landmark. Wonderland, really set its pace going in 1965. Combining all of the previous spaces under one central entertainment. Its Ferris wheel was a landmark, or is a landmark. It is still there, and a lot of people are unhappy to see this go as a historical icon, but also as a treasure of the locality. And I would just like to say congratulations for going for so long. Sorry that the situation of the realtors and the condo builders have succeeded, and they will be turning that into houses in the coming future. But at least the happy memories that this facility engendered over the many years of operation will live on in those guests that visited. And I hope that the employees for the location find opportunities in the burgeoning New York location-based entertainment scene, which is also another of those sectors that is seeing a major growth in entertainment venues. Anyway, I've bored you all enough. I'm going to go into a little bit of the trends in sound off coming up in the next few days. And obviously, if you have any questions about what I've talked about or any corrections, no one's infallible, then please send them to the email there. But I wish you all a really good day, and I'm off.
Well, I just thought I'd throw myself up there, for everybody to enjoy.
I love the bloopers.
Yeah, that's going to be just a great blooper reel
Oh,
eventually.
they're stunned looking.
Yeah, it's just
Anyway.
hey, everybody.
Yeah, some really great insights from Kevin there on different trends and things that are going on. I thought it was pretty interesting, right? I'm really afraid of malls now.
Yeah. Well, so you're afraid of malls. Well, I went to one, actually. So it was a
Oh.
great transition, actually.
Great.
So yeah, I went to Grapevine Mills Mall, and that is in Grapevine, Texas. It's just a north suburb of Dallas, Fort Worth area. And I was out there for a meeting. And so I thought, I'm going to swing by Grapevine and check out, most importantly, I wanted to really see the new Meow Wolf. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But while I was out there, I walked around the mall and was surprised to see how many different venues, other attractions were actually there. So we had, so quickly do a run through here. We had Sea Life, which was there. So there were actually 3 Merlin attractions. The second Merlin attraction there was Legoland. You can see a little photo booth here in between. So actually the Sea Life and Legoland were mirrored of each other. So they were facing each other in here. And this Legoland had a great retail center as well to find some really cool looking Legos and things you can't normally buy like in a typical toy store. And then they had Peppa Pig. So I was excited to actually finally see a Peppa Pig. I was disappointed, though, to see that you couldn't even see in beyond like this. I walked in the lobby and I talked to the guy up there, and it was like $11 for, I could have gone in and walked through it, but I didn't know how that would be like a grown man walking through with a bunch of other kids running around. So without any kids. So I did not go in, but I do want to check out a Peppa Pig World of Play one of these days. But this is a Merlin entertainment venue. And I thought they did a good job with the facade.
So like behind this though, like, do you know how many square feet is back there? Is it high? Are there roller coasters? Like, do they have all that good stuff in there?
Not full roller coasters, but they do have little rides. So they did like little kiddie rides. And actually the Lego Discovery Center had one too. It was in glass. I should have taken a picture of it. It was behind glass. It was actually a good size, like little mini hurricane type style ride, all fully themed for Lego. And so they do have those little rides. There's actually a good amount of square footage back there. Behind the facade. This actual space was maybe 1,000 to 1,500 square feet in the front lobby area, the queue, but the rest of it is obviously reserved for the space.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then they had a round one, and I just continue to be unimpressed by round one. Like, I actually think these things are giant pieces of shit. I walked through, and what's that?
So tell us how you feel, really.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's because I don't like their attraction mix. I think it's terrible. I don't think it fits the US market. And secondly, I think that they're like a really, like, when you just even look at the arcade, they're like a really terrible version of Dave and Buster's. And so, and then like they tend to be very disorganized. Their food isn't very good. So when I first walked in, I did like this attraction, although it was really faded, the screen. So this was like literally, it was super bright in that area, but it's like the Space Invaders, their Gigamax thing. So actually 6 players could play this, which is kind of fun. Not sure when it would happen. Then, of course, round one's known for the cranes, and that's fine. So there's lots and lots and lots of cranes, like endless. Like here's some more of their like crane style gashapon stuff. And then one thing I think that they do unique is they have stuff that is straight from Japan, really unique games that come only from Japan. You're not going to find in a typical arcade. So I do think that is one thing that's really interesting. And then this one was weird. I've never seen a round one with soft play. They had soft play here with some massage chairs, but I mean, you can just see some of them aren't even plugged in. And there was literally 0 kids in there. So like 0, like there was probably negative kids in that space. It like was a giant hole just sucking like a vacuum of nothingness in there.
Were there people anywhere?
There were a handful of people. There was no one using the bowling lanes either. There was nobody in the 9 karaoke rooms. Now, granted, I was there Thursday afternoon at 3:30, but that's still after school, and kids are starting out. But I thought this was weird. This was like this weird random little ride thing just thrown in a corner by the 9th karaoke room. And then here, as I was leaving again, like what? I don't even know what's going on here. So there's the Hot Wheels. If you notice, this was right next to that big Space Invaders Gigamax. But I don't know what this empty space is. I don't know why this is shoved way over in the corner. There's like some pop-up thing. Like it was the weirdest like layout and experience. This was, by the way, their ping pong section. They had like 2 random shit ping pong tables with like like broken down arcades with like a red thing. I mean, it's just, I don't even know what's going on. And look, maybe it's just, I don't know why it keeps going. Well, oh shit. All right. It's going, it's off on its own. Maybe it's this. Anyway, I'm just really unimpressed. I've never been impressed walking into round one. This one was actually the worst round one I've ever been in. And it could just be bad management, frankly.
I'm sorry, was it new? Is it newer, or did they take over space? What was the deal here?
No, I mean, I don't know when it was opened necessarily. The Grapevine Mills Mall is not new. It is an old mall. And some of the other places, like just the building in general, showing its age. But this itself did not seem totally old. Like it just looked badly organized and managed. So the carpet wasn't worn down. There weren't like major chips in the paint. So like, I don't think but I don't know exactly when it was installed, but I mean, let's call it the last 2 years.
Yep.
So, but they did some other stuff. So like the escape game, this was packed, constantly people flowing in and out. So obviously an escape room thing. And this was like in the middle of the day. So there were still, people in the queue there. Lunar golf, there were a couple of kids walking around there, your typical little, small hole in the wall glow golf, but there were kids in there playing. So, clearly serving a need there. And then here, Kevin would be excited to see, it's my first Bandai Gashapon actual store, retail outlet that I've ever come across. So I was excited to see that. And, this is basically what that guy standing there staring in is basically what everybody was doing. You can see a couple of people in there, but most people just walked by, stood there, didn't really know what they were looking at, and kept walking. So, we'll see how that's doing. But then I thought this was cool. They had this like as a little thing further down the walkway, and it's just like a separate little Gashapon vending machine, also by Bandai.
Yeah.
And then there was this guy, Field House. I've never heard of these guys, but they're apparently franchising, and they have 7 locations so far. And they're basically like an indoor sports court. So they have these massive courts. There was literally one person in there on one of the basketball courts with a trainer, and that was it. And but what I thought was cool about these courts, though, is they can be converted from volleyball to like court volleyball or to basketball. So at least dual use. And then you can see hanging there's this picture, and then I'll show another one. They're clearly using their wall space and their banners to advertise other food vendors and other things that are actually in the Grapevine Mills Mall or in the surrounding area. So In-N-Out, Dick's Sporting Goods, Cane's, like, they're doing a good job at least trying to augment or supplement their income.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had this Shoot 360, which was like this like automated sort of like thing that catches the ball, basketball, if you after you made the basket, and then kicks it back to you, so you can then go and it just allows you to be able to just keep playing basketball on your own and also track stuff. So that was the rest of it. Any thoughts before we get into Meow Wolf?
No, I just think it's really interesting to see how the mall's changing and really creating experiences for shopping. I mean, to me, when you showed the Lego store, I'm like, oh no, it's not really like it's a Lego experience. It's like they're doing that to draw people there so they buy the Lego, versus creating a Lego experience. So I think that's really neat. And I think that definitely that's the way shopping is going to have to go. And I'm wondering what they're going to do for really cool women's shoe stores and purse stores. Like, what do we have to look forward to? We want something cool, what are you going to do for us? So
yeah. And I was actually disappointed that there wasn't a camp store there. And I know camp tends to focus on like flagship areas like New York and Chicago and LA. But I was kind of hoping, given how much actual retailtainment and other stuff that we actually saw in this mall, or that I saw in this mall, like I was really hoping that there would be a camp store, because I've been wanting to go into a camp one for a long time when we talk about retailtainment. But I was really excited to go check out Meow Wolf. This is the Real Unreal is the one here. And this one opened a year and a half ago, roughly. And I've just been excited to try it out because I haven't been there yet. And you know what? I was actually really impressed. I thought that this one so far, I still love Omega Mart's shopping, like the actual shopping experience, the retail experience. But I thought this one really went the farthest when it came to its theming and its immersion. And I thought they did a phenomenal job. The storyline was good. I still have some of my key complaints we'll talk about with the Meow Wolf concept in general, but I thought of all of them so far that I've been to, this one was my favorite. And I think it just had to do with the immersion. And so you can see here, the first thing you do after you walk through this weird kind of like queue, almost like a laser tag briefing area, which I didn't like. Like it was kind of like this jarring thing. So I do say that there's some weird experiential stuff that I hadn't had before with Meow Wolf experience there. But once I came in and I walked through, you walk in and it's literally a house with like stars in the sky and trees. And you can see here to the other side of the other angle, there's like a little garden, and obviously it's Meow Wolf. So some of these things have like, there's story points in the garden as well. And like, there's different little tidbits that you can get as you're trying to unravel the story and what's going on and happening in this house. But you can see here lots of people. There was actually a corporate party happening somewhere. So in the lobby, there's a whole cafe area with alcohol, and you can bring alcohol in and walk through it with the experience, which is different than the other experiences as well. And so they had a corporate party where a lot of them were walking around with name tags. I did feel like it was a little bit disruptive. So I would have preferred that they like booked the whole thing instead of allowing other people to come through, because they were really loud and they were joking and they're like, anyway, it was a little bit more like a mixture and a party than it was. I think it kind of broke the experience for the others who were there to just experience it. But go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I went there in June when I was in Dallas, and it was so busy. And I think I was there on a Friday. It looks like you had a better experience than I did, because it was so packed in there. I was like, I'm going to get COVID. And I never even care about that stuff. But there were so many people. We were so close face to face. I'm like, it was nuts. And I couldn't even enjoy the experience. Even the art was really cool. It was really neat, but I couldn't follow the storyline. I couldn't enjoy the experience because there was too many people, and it got frustrating.
Yeah, totally. And so I guess to that end, it wasn't that busy. And that's also probably because it was Thursday at 3:00. But yeah, I could see how it would be, because it was disruptive for me. And I can see how having just too many people in the space, especially some of the spaces are really small in this one. And but I just thought like it was really beautiful. So like some of the areas were so well done. And you like, this is one of the walkways, like you're up actually on a second level, and all of these things hanging down, it's just paper. Yeah. So it's actually remarkable, like how I've given Meow Wolf a bad time before on the quality of their theming. It's like felt on walls and stuff sometimes. This one, other than the paper, but like it all worked really well together. I didn't get the sense that they really spared no expense in some of the other key elements, and even in some of the artwork. You can see here, there's like this little,
it was awesome.
It was so cool. Like this little downtown mini street scene that you walk through. it's a bit weird how you get there. And anyway, like there's some funky stuff with their story, and like you kind of like, again, there's a lot of juxtaposition in Meow Wolf experiences, but the theming, you can't argue. The theming was done so beautifully and amazing. This cool little hole in the wall arcade with like custom games and stuff that also help move the storyline forward if you actually go and you play some of the games. And so I thought that was awesome, and like, you know, literally meant to look so run down. And again, they just did a phenomenal job with their theming. And then you end up with like these really beautiful art pieces, which again, like I love what they do with their art, but there's no fucking reason that these should be in there, frankly. Like this is the one thing I'll say about Meow Wolf. My one issue with them is they need to decide: are they an art venue, or are they an art gallery, or are they an immersive storytelling narrative with cool art and everything else that like goes into it? Because these two things didn't advance the narrative at all. They were random rooms that you just pop into that had nothing to do with the overarching storyline. Beautiful pieces, and amazing, but totally irrelevant to the overall experience.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think the thing is you get people that are attracted to these entertainment, this type of venue, because they just want to go see the art. It's really cool. They don't want to follow the storyline. They could care less about it, honestly. Or you get people that want to go and follow the storyline and uncover the mystery, right? And in this case, it was like a boy. I think you're trying to find out what happened to him. There was this kid that you had to uncover the mystery of. And I mean, for me, I don't care about the boy. I'm sorry. I don't want to follow the storyline. It's too intricate. I don't want to think that hard when I'm going through something like this. So I appreciated the art, and the art was my favorite bits of this.
Totally. I 100% agree. So I can see both sides, but I find it like it's hard to find, like, I don't know where the balance is struck between those people who just want to come in and experience the art and walk through, or the ones who want to dig into the storyline, because they are two very different things. And this, you know, for me, if I want to get into the storyline, these two things don't advance the narrative at all. And they're incredibly expensive installations to just have as like art that are there.
Sure, but then you're attracting different people. Like, what if you and I go and you want to do the storyline and I just want to look at the art? Now we're both seeing something that we want and it's interesting to us, right? I don't know.
Yeah, except I think that you can walk through and see all the art in an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and you want to really invest in the storyline is 3 hours. So I think that's the other issue too, is then you have this weird thing. It's like, what are you going to go and do? Well, you'll go play Peppa Pig, I guess.
No, I won't. I'm going to go have a cocktail, but
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The one last thing I'll say, and this is just a general thing I think that needs to be addressed across any immersive experience, is this. So like I walk in and I'm like in this like crazy immersive space. This was the space I showed earlier with like all like the beautiful stuff there. And then there's this stuff, like, you know, and I get it. It's like you need trash because people are walking around with their drinks. It is different than other Meow Wolf experiences where I actually have trash that I'm bringing in, and where am I going to put it? So I get it. But then theme these things. Do what Disney does, right? Disney does a great job at their trash cans just blend into the environment. I think they could do the same thing. And if any of us are creating these types of immersive experiences, we need to make sure that we're not jarring people back into reality if we're trying to get them into an unreality. So anyway,
unreality. I love
an unreality. Yeah, sure. I just, it's unreal, right? It's a real unreal. So, all right. Anyway, so that's it. That's my thought. I mean, I had a great trip. I really did enjoy the experience, but they're just some of my bits of feedback.
I love it. Love it. Yeah. I'm glad that you got to go to that one. It's great. I love it. Checking them all off the list. Like I have it on my bucket list now. Every single one's got to be done. Right. So they kind of created a little cult culture there. Right. Okay. All right. Let's talk about other immersive things. This time being, actually, you know what time of year it is? It's fall. It's corn maze season, everybody. Or actually, corn maze season is almost over unless you live in a hot climate like Phoenix or Florida, I suppose. But I thought I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about corn mazes because I think they're so fascinating and they've come so far over the past few decades and what they offer and how they're created. I thought it just might be neat to kind of dive into it. So let me pull my PowerPoint up here really quickly. All righty. So, okay. I just thought I'd start off with a little bit of history. So where did these corn mazes come from? I guess back in the 1990s, there was two men, Don France and Adrian Fisher. France was a creative director who worked on Broadway, and Fisher was a maze designer from the UK. They were on a plane and they were kind of flying over Pennsylvania, and they noticed all these expansive cornfields. And France said to himself, he's like, hey, we need to create some mazes in those cornfields. And so he and Adrian Fisher came together and they created this first cornfield known as the Amazing Maze. The Amazing Maze in Pennsylvania. It was in the shape of a dinosaur called Cornelius the Cobosaurus, which you can't really, unfortunately there was no drones back then. So this doesn't really do it justice. This is actually a picture of the corn maze. And you can see how very rudimentary it was. Like it doesn't look as nice as some of the corn mazes we have nowadays. There's one little bridge in the middle, but this was kind of the kickoff here. After they did this initial maze, it had so much success in its first year. All these other farmers from across North America and Canada and the US, they thought, you know what, let's create our own mazes. And this is kind of where agritainment was sort of born from, this whole idea of these corn mazes. They quickly started to gain popularity. Again, agritainment, which you guys are probably all familiar with, is kind of that farm setting where they combine mazes with pumpkin patches, hay rides, some petting zoos, these little fun tractor rides, little pig races. You can see this little girl in a big vat of corn rolling around and some slides. They just mix a bunch of different attractions together to kind of create an entertainment venue, which is amazingly open really only for a couple months of the year. So in my mind, this is a massive labor of love that you have to keep on building on every year. It's helped them really kind of drive a little bit of extra revenue before the seasons close and they actually have to farm and bring all their crops in. So, I think that, you can charge up to $25 per person in some of these places. Some even charge even more to get, people to engage. Some have even added food into their attractions to make people stay longer. So I thought this is really interesting. Now, as you can imagine, technology has come a long way in how designs are made. It used to be that corn mazes were planted, cut by hand, using like weed whackers and saws to kind of do the designs. But today, most of these large scale designs are made first in something like this, like Adobe Illustrator or whatever design program this is. And they make it using pixels on kind of a map. So they'll do this, plunk it into Adobe, and they do something called mazifying it, where they sketch what the farmer wants, and then they add the twists and the turns and the dead ends in. They make it, medium hard, super hard, not so hard. They put some other kind of funky things in there. And then until recently, what they were doing is they were just planting the cornfields and then using GPS technology to cut out the pathways in these cornfields. But just a few years ago, they've invented this other method, which is absolutely brilliant, where the corn is actually planted by GPS instead of cutting it. So they'll put this into the actual machine that does the planting, and they'll plant it in rows. When the planter reaches a section where the pathway would go, it stops planting the corn, and then it starts planting again when you get another block. So for example, in this design, anywhere where it's brown, it wouldn't plant the seeds, and it would just kind of be going back and forth along the track, which I thought, it's amazing how technology has helped our lives and changed all the work that we have to do. Now, it's also allowed for more intricate designs. So I found this one really fascinating here. This was a farm in Canada, and what they wanted to do is put a QR code on their corn maze, and they wanted it to be scannable because they were trying to break a Guinness World Book of Record as the largest scannable QR code ever created. And this was the first one to be done, and they actually made it happen. I guess the first try, somebody went up to take a picture and it didn't work. And what they ended up having to do was to go rototill all the dirt pathways in there just to make it have a bit more contrast to it. And so the second time they went up, the picture worked and they broke the record. So kind of a neat little fun play thing to do with these cornfields. Then there's also these other massive cornfields out there. This one is Cool Pumpkin Patch. You can see the picture here. They're known for their massive size cornfields. This one is actually 63 acres. They change their themes annually. This year it was called 9-line, which I had to look up. I wasn't familiar with it. I don't know if you're familiar with 9-line, but it's an emergency medevac request. So it's often the difference, they say, between life and death for the most severely wounded soldiers. So when they call 9-line, I guess the helicopters come in and they rescue the soldiers on the field. So they kind of did a salute to that this year, which was really nice of them. And you can see all the intricate designs and everything that's going on in that cornfield. Then there was, I thought this one was cool, the Richardson Adventure Farm. This one's in Spring Grove, Illinois. This is over 28 acres. And last year they had a James Bond theme. This year they decided that they would go with John Deere. But what's really fascinating about this design, and I'm going to go to the next slide here, is that they've broken down their maze into lots of different little mazes. So you don't have to spend hours doing the whole thing. If you just wanted to do maybe a 1-mile corn maze, you can come in at this entry point and do like the blue where it says Richardson Farm at the bottom. If you wanted a bigger one, you go into the green section. You know, you have the white and the orange to go to, and you can do the whole thing if you so choose, but it's broken down into smaller elements because some people get bored after being in a corn maze for a couple of hours and it's just not their jam anymore. Then here's, I just have a couple more examples of a few that I thought were really cool. Like, I thought this was neat. The Lowe Family Farmstead in Ohio, they do particularly tricky designs. They're known for how tricky their designs are every year. Well, this year they did a Ford one with the Ford Bronco in there, which I thought looked pretty cool. Then we have Corn Bellies in Utah. Now they have multiple locations, but they kind of keep the same theme. So this year it was a Luke Bryan theme, which I thought was cool. So this was one of their corn mazes. And then on their other field, they took the design and just modified it slightly so that it looked a little bit different, which I thought was cool. And then I kind of thought to myself, if Luke Bryant's so popular, how come I couldn't find any Taylor Swift corn mazes? So I did a little Google search and I was wrong. There was one this year. If you're ready for it, here it is. I thought it was done really well. These guys did a great design. They themed their whole place out Taylor Swift, and they did kind of an ode to her 1989 album. This was a farm in Maryland, and they just, I think, did a wonderful job. I'm curious to know how it turned out. I guess they probably have a couple weekends left to find out exactly, but I thought it was really smart. And man, farm mazes have, or corn mazes have come a really far way from where they used to back in the day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love a good corn maze, and we always have one that's here, and it's always cut in a very different. Now maybe it's being planted differently, but but they tend to, like I said, I think they cut them, but maybe they're going to start planting them and following the new technology. But they definitely do one of those really intricate designs, and they have the little scavenger hunt in the middle of it, so it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah,
awesome. All right, well, before we move on to the Arcade Corner with Adam Pratt, we are going to hear a quick word from one of our new sponsors, Radius.
If you run a location-based entertainment brand and want to attract more visitors, check out Radius. They use real-time location data and customized marketing strategies to help brands like yours stand out. Radius can boost your foot traffic and build a loyal customer base. Plus, they're offering a complimentary local market analysis to show you exactly how they can help you grow. Curious? Visit radius.co and ask about your free market analysis. That's RAYDIUS.co.
Greetings, it's Adam with Arcade Heroes for Arcade Corner at the LBX Collective. Apologies that my voice is sounding a little strange. It's not just due to my laptop, but I'm in Chicago as I record this, in town for the Pinball Expo 2024, and this is at the end of a very long day where I've done a lot of talking, a lot of trade show talking where you strain your voice a little bit more, and so we'll possibly be a little brief and mainly covering pinball news. Is with that expo coming along, that's what's been the main focus of what's going on out there. Now, of course, Pinball Expo does attract a lot of home consumers because that's where a lot of the business is when it comes to pinball machines these days. In fact, it's a super majority. I've heard numbers as high as 85% of pinball buyers now are home collectors, but there's still a segment of operators out there, and I talked to several operators and their thoughts on business and such. And so they're out there, and that's where it applies. I've often argued that pinball, while it's not, at least for me, it's not a great earner, I still see it as indirect income. It's something that brings some people in who otherwise might not step foot in my venue, and then they oftentimes bring other people in with them, such as their kids or grandkids, who will spend money on the other games that are there. Or sometimes one particular machine might draw somebody in, they'll play it a little bit, and then they'll go play something else. And so that's where I consider it indirect income. But there's quite a bit of pinball news and happenings going on, and that's what we'll focus on here. The principal one is this Metallica Remastered, announced by Stern. For those listening, I'm going to be playing the video here, but without audio because it involves a major heavy metal band and all that. The algorithms always love to ding you on that. But what it is Stern had released the Metallica pinball machine back in I think 2013 or 2014, and it was well liked, and I enjoyed it. When I was a teenager, I listened to Metallica pretty regularly, and so I like that aspect of it. But what the remaster does is it has the same layout as the game did from 10-ish years ago, but it has all new artwork, new components, the new hardware system. Can't recall if the toys that it's showing, like showing a skeleton in an electric chair, I don't remember seeing that. This seems to be slightly more full stuff, but also has updated videos and such from all that. And so that's what the video shows. And you can find it on YouTube if you so desire to see that trailer. It also looks like they're using the metallic artwork on the sides, which is really, really nice to see in person. You can actually see that when it comes to the Godzilla 70th Anniversary Edition. So that was announced. However, the odd thing was it was not at Pinball Expo. You would think that they would have brought it there, but apparently the only way to see it and play it would be to go to the Stern factory here in the Chicago area and have been a part of that special event, which I think might have been invite only, or Pinball Expo attendees could go see it. But I'm not sure if that's I assume that usually when Stern announces something, if it's not available immediately, it's going to be available within the next week or two. And so if you are interested in that for your venue, then you can contact your preferred Stern distributor and get pricing and order one already and get that taken care of. Now, of course, at the show, Stern has a huge presence here. They have the biggest booth, of course. It makes sense that they would. And they have a lot of games. Of course, the main one that they were focusing on was the Uncanny X-Men, which was recently announced. And that is not a remaster of the X-Men from, I'd say, also seems like it's been a decade, possibly a little bit more since the last X-Men game. But a whole new design, and it uses a unique design where it moves the flippers over so they're not centered, and so you have to play a little bit different than you would expect. But I got a chance to play that one, and the flow of the game is very interesting. The shots are really cool, and it feels really fun to play. But of course, with all the noise of a show, it didn't get to hear everything out of the game that you might in a typical venue. But Stern had a lot of X-Men's around to make sure that people would have enough to play. But of course, even then, you still had to wait in line to give it a shot. But they had a really cool room that would allow you to go and play it inside kind of a darkened enclosure, and it had X-Men cut out in the ceiling, and so the light pouring in through the convention center would illuminate it inside there, and then of course the games themselves. And so that was pretty cool. Then they also had all their other releases: John Wick, Jaws, Star Wars, Deadpool, Venom, Foo Fighters. I can't remember. There's probably one or two that I'm missing, but they had quite a selection there. And then their rivals, Jersey Jack Pinball, has a pretty decently sized booth. They didn't have quite as many games available to play, but the main one that they were focusing on was Avatar, The Way of the Water, which does have elements from both movies, but does focus more on the more recent sequel. And that one is a very colorful game, very beautiful looking game, and also has some interesting ramp designs for some cool shots and loops. I actually didn't get a chance to play that one. The lines for that one were very long, and without as many machines available, it was a little bit harder to get on, particularly the limited edition ones. But the topper on that one, which uses a holographic effect, is very cool to see in person. Also has some black light or UV paints that light up under black light, which they had a little booth which could do that, and that was really cool to see. There's some other names that are well known in pinball, such as Spooky Pinball, and they like to call themselves Boutique Pinball, where they had Looney Tunes and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Scooby-Doo there. I didn't get a chance to play them, but watching other people play them, they look like a lot of fun, and particularly Looney Tunes, which if you grew up with the cartoons, there's a lot of clips from Looney Tunes in there. And so if you have a venue that has kids and you have something that's pinball related, or that sees a lot of kids come through, and you want something pinball related, I think that would be a great machine to have there, since there's a lot of pinball designs that don't necessarily appeal to kids. American Pinball was there, however, they didn't have any new game announcements, but they had all their latest, actually all their games except for Oktoberfest. But it makes sense if they did have Oktoberfest on hand, just because of the time of year that it is. But the Galactic Tank Force was their principal one, and they had both pro, but mostly the limited edition ones there, which look really, really nice in person. They had Legends of Valhalla, the Viking themed one, the Barrio's Barbecue Challenge, which is their most recent release, and a Houdini, and some Hot Wheels as well. And so those are the bigger names, but one of the cooler aspects of this expo is seeing all the homebrew games, games that people themselves have designed, like in their garage, and brought. And now these aren't necessarily going to be very appealing to commercial locations, just because they're not going to be mass produced. But it's interesting to see some of the ideas that come along from those, and sometimes there's some very innovative things. One of the most impressive ones that I came across was Saw, based on the Saw movies, but I guess particularly focused on the first one. I mean, I wasn't able to catch who made this one, but it is the most impressive independently made pinball machine I have ever seen. I mean, it looks like something that Stern or Jersey Jack would put out. It's extremely high quality. Now, maybe I just didn't get a good enough look at it, because every time I walked by it, it was getting played. But filming it and looking at it, I was very impressed with what I saw there. And so who knows, it's such good quality, perhaps somebody like Stern or Jersey Jack might actually pick it up and mass produce it. I guess it might just be a question of licensing. But there was a few other games there, such as a Pokemon game, a Sonic the Hedgehog game, Sonic Spinball, Boys Night Out, which I had seen at California Extreme, an Overwatch pinball machine, a Frozen pinball machine. Interesting thing about the Frozen one and a couple of others that didn't have any sort of license attached to them. Of course, Frozen probably wasn't licensed. Again, somebody just building this for themselves and bringing it to an expo to show off. But it used the old Pinball 2000 idea, which, if you're not familiar with that, it used a piece of glass and put a monitor above that glass to create a holographic effect on the playfield. And it looks really cool when it blends with the real elements of a playfield. And also, speaking of that, there was P3 Pinball, which had their Princess Bride, where half of the playfield, or a little bit more than half, uses a video screen, and they have flippers above the video screen, and so that's a little bit different. But in the back, it has the real physical elements, ramps and toys and things like that. But the P3 system allows you to swap out, you buy a kit, and you can swap out games, and like there's a Weird Al pinball, and there's some other original creations that they've done, but that was the first time I'd seen The Princess Bride. Those systems are a little pricey. They're I think around $13,000, $14,000, but then the kits are pretty low cost. So once you've bought one machine, kitting it out and swapping the kit, which I think takes, they say, somewhere around 10-15 minutes, I think, maybe less, it becomes a bit easier to do and cheaper. And so those are the trends that we're seeing in the pinball side of things. And of course, there should be some pinball at IAAPA. I believe from what I've seen, Stern, Jersey Jack, and American Pinball are supposed to be there. Certain companies like Spooky won't be, but still some interesting trends to see coming our way on the pinball side of things. But before too long, we're going to start hearing a lot more about the video side that's going to be coming along. But that gets you up to date on what's going on in the arcade world, or the arcade corner of the world. And so thank you for checking out this segment, and enjoy the rest of the LBX Collective.
All right. Well, that was, I don't know why, we got to figure out what's going on there. But anyway, all right. So we have now the promo pro tips with Chuck Tamani. So let's roll right into that.
Hello and welcome to Promo Pro Tips with Chuck DeMonte. I'm Chuck DeMonte and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Radius. And at Radius, we help location-based entertainment centers attract more visitors by using real-time location data and tailored marketing strategies. And today I want to talk about something that's really important, maybe the most important thing that your location-based entertainment center needs in order to get more visitors, okay? Drum roll, please. Awareness, right? I know it sounds very simple and dumb, but awareness is the number one thing that your center needs to attract more visitors, right? And I'm pretty adamant about this because we talk to potential clients all the time. And I think when it comes from somebody who runs and operates a marketing agency, they think it's a cop-out that I say awareness, right? Because it's kind of an easy strategy to achieve, right? It's not like you're doing conversion ads where you need conversion tracking, and conversion ads are nice, if you're doing paid ads that will, get somebody to buy a ticket to your location or book an event or a birthday party. It's very easy to track that. We know we did this ad, somebody came to the website and purchased or called, right? It's very easy to have an ROI on that and understand what that looks like. However, awareness is a little bit different, right? It's very hard to get that ROI and understand what that looks like. So I think people, like I said, think it's a cop-out potentially, but I'm here to tell you it's not. Awareness is so important, and awareness can come in so many different forms, right? You really, it could be word of mouth. It can be paid ads. It could be, there's a bunch of different things and a bunch of different ways to achieve awareness. Okay. So I want to pull up my notes here so I don't, leave anything out, but so why awareness? Why is that the most important thing? Obviously, people need to be aware of you before they're going to visit your location. And so that could come in two different ways, okay? Awareness could be for new customers, but could also be for repeat customers for you to stay top of mind. And I've mentioned this in a previous session with the promo tips, is that you're getting hit with so much information on a daily basis. Social media, email, text messages, regular mail, television, everything, right? Every day people are being hit over the head, family, kids, there's a million things going on a given day. You got to cut through that noise, okay? And so you got to hit people over the head with awareness. Now, this all needs to be said that there's a backdrop of having a good experience. If people are aware of you, they come and they don't have a good experience, your awareness is going to be cut short, because once they're aware of you, hopefully they come in, they have a good experience. Now there's word of mouth, right? And that word of mouth is more awareness. And then when somebody says to their friends, family member, oh, you should go to this place, and then they see an ad or an email, it just is another touch point, another piece of awareness, right? Now think about how hard it is to measure the effectiveness of that and the ROI in that. So I think, again, this is why sometimes people think like, awareness, like, I wanted to know if it's working and how it's working and how much money I'm getting from it. It's a hard thing to measure, okay? In e-commerce, they do have something called media efficiency ratio. And that might be a good thing to sort of take a page out of that strategy, because what that essentially means is, how much money am I spending in marketing, and what is my top line revenue, right? And if I put more in marketing, does that grow my top line revenue? Are the ratios sort of the same? I put 10% more in marketing, do I get 10% more on my top line, right? So that's one way to sort of look at it as a whole in marketing. So you don't have to measure every single dollar. I did this dollar in advertising and I got this many dollars back, okay? Again, it's difficult to measure the strategy. So what is one of the easiest ways to get awareness? I would say Meta ads, right? Meta, Instagram, Facebook still has some of the best targeting around. It still has one of the biggest user bases around. Now, TikTok is getting up there, okay? Especially it's not as a young of a platform as it used to be, meaning in how long it's been around, but also, it's aged up in terms of the people that use it. You have parents on there all day long. There's a very big parent demographic on TikTok, okay? However, the budgeting and the targeting, I think you need, it's $20 a day, right? On TikTok, where Meta, you can go as little as like $1. So, that's the only reason why I would still potentially recommend Meta over TikTok. But if you have the budget, TikTok is definitely worth exploring for local awareness ads. I do still think Meta has the edge on targeting awareness. When you say, give me this target, give me these type of, this age range, these type of people. The other thing Meta has is Advantage Plus audiences, right? And I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I'll explain Meta, how to accomplish it a little bit better in a second. But Advantage Plus audiences, basically Meta will go out and find the audience that's engaging with your ad and really find your target audience for you, right? So they're unbelievable at it. And that's why I think it's still one of the best routes to go. So let's talk about what an awareness ad would look like. So on Meta, you choose, when you're going to do an advertising campaign, you choose an objective. Okay. Now that objective could be, I want more video views. I want more link clicks. I want more conversions, engagement on my post, right? You're going to say, I want to get the most reach possible in a certain area, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to hopefully, you can have a photographer come in, you can take your own pictures, you're going to create some sort of asset that you think will get a lot of exposure. Now, video works great, right? If you can create a video of your location, even a cool drone video, something, it would be worth investing a little bit of money to have a cool asset, right? And it doesn't take a ton of money, but you could have a photographer come down for $500 and shoot some video and, edit it together, okay? So having a cool asset is decently important. And then, like I said, you're going to go on Meta. You're going to go into a business manager, have an ad account. This all sounds complicated. You can teach yourself fairly easily to run these awareness ads, right? If it was conversion ads, I would say you kind of need a professional who knows what they're doing, how to set up conversion tracking. Awareness ads you could do on your own. So you have an ad account now. You tell Facebook you want to get reach. You put in that asset, you put in the copy. What does the text look like? What is the call to action? Where's the target? You put in your location, and that's it. Boom, you're running awareness ads. You could just literally just let these ads run, right? And a way to improve this, okay, and one of the things that we do and we provide for our clients is we use location-based data. Now, we use a tool called Placer AI. It is a very expensive tool. If you are a smaller, revenue location-based entertainment center, it would very possibly be out of your price range. However, if you have the money to spend it, I think it's worth it. Basically what this does is shows where your visitors are coming from, shows the demographic that's coming to your location, shows where that demographic is located. It'll really give you a good starting point as to where to place these ads to get better bang for your dollar. That'll hopefully get more people to come into your location. Okay. However, you don't need it, right? Because again, like I said, Facebook is going to put it, you could do an Advantage Plus audience. And when you tell Facebook, I want reach, they're going to look at who's engaging with this, who's actually watching this video or, clicking on it or hovering over the ad for a while. And they're going to show it to more of those people who are taking those actions. So again, it's not rocket science. It's really easy. Now, you're going to let the ad go for whatever your budget, your daily or, monthly budget is. I think maybe you change it once every 2-3 months, right? So you don't get what you call creative fatigue, right? It's a fresh look. And I'm telling you, this will help get people into your location. Okay. Again, they need to have a good experience when they come in, so they have that better word of mouth, but getting just awareness out there is huge. It is the first step to getting people into your location. And what's even better about this is hopefully that you start bringing more money. You want to start adding more strategies. Doing these awareness ads is such a great foundation for other strategies, because you could do stuff like retargeting. You could then add conversion ads onto that very easily. You could start doing stuff like, first party lead generation, like lead gen. There's a ton of stuff that this would, make as a good foundation for. So that's the promo tip for the day. Lean into awareness as much as possible. There's obviously other ways you could achieve this as well. I like using every door direct mailer from the USPS. Again, a lot of times people sort of wince at that because it's hard to know the ROI, but I could tell you they work by using some of the location-based data. We send these flyers out and we see people come in from the zip codes and the postal areas we send it to. So word of mouth, doing organic engagement, even though it's a little bit of a pain in the butt and it takes time, organic engagement on Instagram and following people and liking people from a local market. Really, so those are some good ways to get your name out there. Partnering with influencers, a lot of times you could barter, but just get creative. Think of ways. How do I just get my brand name out locally? Building, community relationships. Okay, is a great way to get your word out. Now, this doesn't happen overnight, which is why I think people don't necessarily see the ROI. But if you do this consistently and just try and get your name out there more and more and more every day over a year, 2 years, 3-year period. Right? We've seen people double their revenue in 3 years, right? By just getting their name out there more and more and more and more and more. Okay. So that's the tip. Get awareness. Take care.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Great tips, Chuck. Alrighty. Okay, so one of our final segments today, we're going to be going right in with Beth Stanley, who's going to introduce us to a model and way of thinking to run our businesses more effectively and more efficiently.
I love the music. Yeah, always gets me fired up. Hi, I'm Beth Stanley, founder, entertainment author of People Buy From People, How to Connect Personally in an Impersonal World. I'm going to put my timer on because I have a very meaty topic today. We want to take a deeper dive into what we were talking about last week as far as having a strategic plan and thinking about what am I going to do in the next year, in the next 3 years, in the next 6 years, that sort of thing. And I want to just remind you that you really need to look out first and then come in. So many times what we do is we look at what needs to be done today and we work against that. And then we get up tomorrow and we start that all over. And that's tactics. That's tactical. It's not strategic. And today what I wanted to do is to take you a little bit deeper and show you some tools that you could potentially use to help you with that strategic plan. And I will say that even as a coach who is a certified scaling up coach that does all of this kind of work, somebody I've ran my own business based on this kind of strategy since 2014. It really helps us wild-eyed visionaries who have 20 ideas a day stay focused so that we can go one step in front of the other. Even somebody who's well studied and well practiced, I still use a coach. We still have somebody come in and do our quarterly plan and our annual planning sessions with us. So Christine actually is a wonderful student and dear friend of mine. And she lived through this process back in the day. And so I've got her helping me today with tools. So if you would pull up the one-page strategic plan from Scaling Up, it's probably the most complex tool that's out there. But what I would draw your attention to, and there's a whole ton to know, and I don't have an all-day workshop with you. But the thing I'll draw your attention to is if you'll look over here in the very first column and you read it's called the one-page strategic plan, but it's really, I don't think Vern Harnish would want me to say it's 2 pages, but it's like an 11 by 14 if you fold it out. And so you're going to read it left to right. I guess that's left to right. It's my left to right. It may look opposite to you. But do you see that you need to do your core values and your beliefs first? And I think that this is so true, because until you know what you believe and what you stand for and what it means to work in your organization, when you can get that out of your head into the hearts of the people that you're going to employ, choose to work with, and even the clients that you may let come through your door or be part of your practice, I think it's too complicated to get it right until you know this core values and your beliefs first. And so you'll see that that's a very first column here in the one-page strategic plan, which I always was a fan of in the old days when we implemented EOS, and I'll show you that tool. That BTO is a tool, and I can't think of the word, but they've copyrighted that tool, Vision Tracker Organizer, and Gino Whitman did a great job with that. But they never started with this core values piece. They thought you could start with the tactical, hey, this is how we're going to measure the success of our business. So I'm a big fan of digging in about what your core values are first. And then the next thing you see here is purpose. And the way to think about that is, why are we in business? What gets us out of bed? Why would we do this? And he takes a Jim Collins concept called the BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, and just looks for, like, in 10 years or in 20 years, what is that thing that we want to be that's bigger than we can think of right this minute? Then you're going to break that down to what would that take? What would we have to do in the next 3 to 5 years? And then you can see, as we continue to move right, what are we going to do in the next year? And then you continue to move right, and you're looking at the next 90 days. And I'll tell you, the thing that the one-page strategic plan helps me to do is it helps me think deeply and strategically without getting too complicated about the things that we can do, the most important things we can do to reach that ultimate big, hairy, audacious goal. Christine, show me the next one. This is the very simplified version that we use at Trainertainment to start most clients. Now, some people are already pretty advanced, and if they are, we'll start them with the scaling up tool. Many of our people in the family entertainment-based stage, we will start here with our simplified version. I heard a wonderful quote last week that said, simplicity is complexity resolved. Isn't that fabulous? I'm going to write an article about that. The thing that stands out for me here, and I'm going to grab Christine so she can testify. She can back my play here on this core values piece, because I'll never forget working with her team about core values. The way we get to it is we do ask you to think of the 3 people that matter the most, that you admire the most, whether they're living or past, even fictional or historical. And then we ask you to write down, what are the traits and characteristics? What are the behaviors that made you add them to your list? And I'll never forget Christine in the middle of this exercise, because you had self-implemented, correct, Christine?
I self-implemented, that's right, for years. Mm-hmm.
And she's brilliant, and she's read everything. Heck, she knows Vern Harnish personally.
You're making me blush, Beth.
Well, I speak the truth. And but I remember being in the middle of this exercise, and Christine made this face like, well, if I could visually see a light bulb come on top of her head, it did, because what she said was, oh, I know why I couldn't get behind this. I didn't believe in my own core values.
Mm-hmm.
Got connected, right? I mean, I think you had said like so corporate-y. Like you tried to make those values be what we all.
Yeah. If I recall, one of the big issues was that I had set out some values that I thought we should have for the company. But since we were already established when I'd set the values had already been set by the staff and the people in the company, and they didn't align. And that was the problem. I was trying to shift them and make them something that they weren't. So when we worked with the values and we aligned them to what was already existing, but then we worked to polish them up and make them better, that's when everything clicked and made more sense.
Well, it was exciting. It was exciting to be a part of the process, and neat to just watch the light come on, because you know what? Values are what drive behavior, and then behavior determines a culture. So you're so right. You guys were already on the ground. You already had a culture that you were happy with. Like you had a strong team. You were ready to get some guidance and bring the leadership group into the fold and help them be a bigger part of it. But yes, you had a culture that was already alive and well, and we got to it. It was so fun. And so you can see then in the one we use, you can see vision, mission, and we just did a 6-year. I didn't understand the big, hairy, audacious goal piece like I did once I got certified with scaling up, and we just felt like 10 years and 20 years was so far down the path that when people were first getting into this kind of structure, it was too big to think about, and we couldn't get them brought into the fold until we figured out that the 6-year strategy seems to work well. And then in the 3-year plan, you can see we've got revenue, we've got profit, and then measurements that matter. We will do a whole segment on measurements because, well, I'll just leave it there. I'm not even going to give you a teaser for it. We'll do a whole segment on good measurements, and then what's it look like. And then Christine, if you can show that next page, then we're real serious about, okay, what are we going to accomplish this year? And then the 90-day rock plan is, what are the things we have to do to make sure we get those objectives for the year made? And anyway, so that's our simple view. And then the last tool I'll show you very quickly is the EOS tool. So many people know about the Entrepreneurial Operational System, and that model is born out of Vern Harnish's Scaling Up. Gino Wickman was a big fan, a big student of Vern's, and so he did that simplification piece, and you can see here core values, core focus, 10-year target that we talked about, a little bit of a marketing strategy, and then I don't even know if I did the second page, but you could see the 1 year, the 3-year piece as well. So I hope that is somewhat helpful. LBX had asked me to go a little bit deeper, and so I felt like showing you the tools and giving you some strategy behind what was going on would be important. And the last thing I will say is, while you could take some of these tools and try to implement yourself, I do it for a living, and I still use a coach to do annual planning and to do quarterly planning, and I call her anytime I think we're kind of off track. So appreciate your time today. Appreciate LBX. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week. I could tease you with what I'm going to tell you, but I think I'll just wait. See you next.
All right, everybody. That wraps everything up here. And look, it's been a great show. It's been a bit long, so we'll make sure to just keep refining and refining. We're going to get better at this thing. Yeah, but so much good content. It's hard to just leave any of it on the cutting room floor. So thank you to all of our contributors and to everybody who went along to make this thing possible. With that, this is CB and BW signing off. Stay tuned and keep kicking ass.
Bye, guys.